Hi everyone, welcome to another video with Michelle's Canine Training. Today I want to talk about the crate. And the main reason for that is I could do videos on obedience commands and I can talk about the tools, but one of the most important foundations of dog training revolves around structure in the home. And the crate is one of the best tools for providing that. So first off, let's discuss some benefits of crate training before I go into some of my tips and tricks and what my preferences are when it comes to crate training. First off, one of the most important aspects of crate training is the fact that you are teaching your dog to be calm and collected when you're away from the home or even when you're in the home. The dog learns to detach themselves from you and they start to associate the crate as some place like their safe haven and somewhere where they will enjoy being, and realizing that nothing can bother them and that they themselves can just rest and sleep and relax. One thing you have to keep in mind is that dogs are actually pack animals. So when you're around the house and your dog is following you around, that is something that they are used to doing. That is something that they greatly enjoy, of course. But the thing is, once we leave the house, we don't teach them what they do. So eventually a dog might experience separation anxiety, or they might act out by being destructive with your belongings. I like to make comparisons to situations we would experience. So think of it as you spending a lot of time with someone. Maybe you're in a relationship, or maybe you spend a lot of time with your friend. Anytime you go back to your home and you're by yourself, I think people tend to struggle with that a lot because you're so used to having somebody else, having company around, that once you're by yourself, you can't think of things you want to do, or maybe you won't have the motivation to do it because you don't have somebody else to share it with. So it takes some sort of reprogramming to get used to being by yourself and also enjoying that time as well. So this is very similar to a dog. They have to be used to it. They have to do it as a routine. And then eventually they will learn to really, really love it. Another thing to keep in mind is that when we bring dogs into our lives, we surround them with so many things that they don't understand. We've got TVs, we've got electronics, we've got stuff sticking out of the walls, like I have a wall heater right here. We've got a lamp, we've got all this stuff that they don't understand. So it is our responsibility to make sure they are safe while we're gone. And this helps them with that, because if we let them free roam while we're out of the house, they can get into a lot of things. They could maybe eat something harmful. They might destroy some of our stuff. And by keeping them in the crate, we make sure that they are safe and that they are in the same mental state that we left them in, which is being calm. When dogs are left to their own devices, they can become really reactive to a bunch of stuff. So imagine all that time and effort that you put into training your dog, and then the moment you leave your house, your dog will backtrack a little bit with all of that training because they start engaging in behaviors that we would disapprove of. They would maybe bark at the door, or they would maybe put their legs up against your window, or they would perhaps chase the cat around the house. You just never know. So by putting them in the crate, you ensure that none of those instances ever happen. The more a dog practices a negative behavior, the more likely they are to do it. So if we prevent that from ever happening, then we allow our dog to remain balanced and well-mannered with not engaging in stuff that we would disapprove of. Another thing I want to emphasize is my realization that crate training has helped so much when it comes to travel. So something I have been engaging in with Riley these past few years is road tripping with her. I've taken her to Idaho, I've taken her to Montana, I've taken her to Utah, and every single time we would drive together and I would bring our crate. So the thing is, I have been renting Airbnbs, and in each of these situations, the environment is different because we're staying in a different home. All the sights and sounds and smells are all different. So even though these are different environments that I am expecting her to stay in, bringing her crate is the one familiar thing from home that she is going to be used to. And it makes it so that despite all of this sudden shift of environment, she is able to remain calm because she's in her crate. She's used to the routine, and she knows that that is what is expected of her. That makes it so that even if you bring your dog to someplace they are not familiar with, they are still able to really uphold the values that you instilled on them because you bring something that they are familiar with. I will say, based on my personal preference, but of course, Whatever works for you best is what you should use. I like to use these types of plastic crates mainly because they provide less view of the outside. And I feel like that would help the dog to calm down if they're able to see less. That way they're not able to be as reactive to anything that is in view. In the beginning, when I got her as a puppy, I started off with a wire crate, and they provided you with a separator that could allow you to increase the size as the dog got bigger. The thing is about plastic crates, it does get expensive if you want to use plastic crates, because that means that you have to buy a new one as they grow up. But the thing is, with the wire crate, if you did want to go that route, there are always modifications that you can make with it. You can buy a cover to drape over it. I've also seen people buy white noise machines, maybe for dogs in the early stages of crate training, where you play that noise on the side to help them to calm down, because it will drown out some of the noise that might be coming in from outside. Also, the crate should not only be for when you are out of the house. So that is something I want to mention, because there are times, I think, where people are so used to viewing the crate as something that they use when they leave, that when they want to use it when they're home, their dog doesn't actually end up behaving in a way that they expect, because they have only ever used it when they left the house. So if they crate their dog and they're around the house making noise and moving around, their dog is still not really settling down, or they're like, oh, my owner is just right over there. Why are they leaving me in here when normally they only do that when I leave? So something you want to be sure to practice is to also crate your dog when you're in the house. Okay, so I have mentioned the word calm multiple times. So that is the number one thing that we expect out of our dog when they're in the crate. They have to be calm. I believe one of the best ways to achieve calm is to expect the dog to be in a down. Anytime she's in the crate and it's not some sort of emergency situation where she's trying to let me know that she needs to go out to pee, which is not something that happens very often, but there are very rare cases where that has happened. But overall, let's just talk about a general state. I will expect her to be in a down, because if she is standing up, then it's harder for you to relax if you think about it. If we're sitting down, we're able to really sink in and take our mind off of things. But if we're standing up, we're a little bit more tense. So as you can see also, cats really love the crate as well. Anytime during the day she's out of the crate, the cats will be in the crate. So this is definitely a place that animals really love. So let's continue talking about crate etiquette. She is expected to be calm. If you are training a dog for crate training for the first time, I would definitely recommend that you encourage the dog to be in a down. One thing to keep in mind also is that in the beginning, I would recommend that you leave the leash on your dog only when you're in the house, of course. If you're training your dog, then you can guide the dog in. You can use treats, throw treats in the crate, encourage them to go inside. When they're inside, you praise them. And if you can also use the leash and bring them into a down. You could say the command as well if your dog knows it, but the thing is, you just want to encourage them. Once they get into a down, you praise them again. The thing about crate training that I feel like is inevitable is there may be a phase for a while where the dog will be whining a lot or making a ton of noise. And that is just a phase that they have to go through. In the beginning with Riley, I didn't use e-collar or prong at the time. So I did it the old school method, where I basically just had her crated and she was just whining the whole time, and I just had to endure it. I wasn't sure about other methods about how to correct the whining when it comes to crate training. But realistically, you could just slam your hand against the top of the crate. Keep in mind that doing that is a form of disrupting the dog. It doesn't actually harm the dog. It's just sort of like, imagine someone is kind of frantic and going crazy, making a bunch of noise, and something you see often in movies. I'm not advocating for violence, but you see somebody smack their face, kind of like interrupting them in the moment. That is similar to what slamming your hand against the crate does. Eventually, if you do that enough times, every time they're whining, they will feel discouraged to do that because of that sudden disruption. Anytime you see your dog lying down and not making any noise, definitely praise them. If they're in a stage where they're whining a lot, you can also praise them the moment that they stop whining and aren't making any noise. Anytime they exhibit behavior that is more in line with the end goal you like to see, which is lying down and being quiet, then you should always praise them. Another thing when it comes to crate etiquette is the dog is not allowed to rush out. They're also not allowed to rush in. So anytime she's in the crate like this, say it's the morning time and the door's closed, I walk over, I open the door, it remains like this. Generally, in the morning, she remains down. I do not allow her to come out of the crate unless she's already in a down, because I don't want to encourage her that the moment the door opens, oh, it's time to get out. Like, I don't want them to have that impression that they get to rush out, that I can't wait to get out of here. They like it in there. So I want her to have the understanding that we're taking our time. We're coming out, but we're taking our time. There's no need to rush. So right now, Milo is being disruptive, but Milo is the one that really loves the crate. So I am sure that once she comes out, he's gonna be right in there. All right, let's let her out. Break. Good. Look at how slow she came out. She was really relaxed in there. There you go, good girl. And then similarly, when I want her to go inside, I just use the crate command, and I expect her to walk in there calmly. Crate. Good girl. There you go. Good job. I'd like to remind everyone that manners, when it comes to the crate, are really, really important. When I mentioned that I don't want her rushing in and out of the door, those are aspects that can really, really bleed into other things that could lead to bad behavior. So if you think about it, if you allow your dog to be pushy when it comes to the crate, that mindset could lead to her thinking that she could get away with some other behavior, because if she's pushy right now when it comes to the crate, she's gonna view you as being a little bit soft in the leadership department, and then she would take that mindset and maybe when it comes to the walk, she might pull a little more. She might feel like it's okay to jump at that dog, because in the past, anytime that I've done so, you haven't done anything about it, let alone being firm with me in the house. So I want to leave you with that little bit of information and something to keep in mind, because a lot of these things can be comparable to what we do also as humans. One example that I like to give is at one of my old jobs, my manager wanted me to come into the office at 9 a.m. But I did not want to do that because I live in San Diego. Me driving in at 9 a.m. means that I hit rush hour traffic. If I come into the office at 10 a.m., I don't hit any of that. And I also leave the office late enough not to hit any traffic. So that's a big benefit for me. I don't like to sit in traffic. I think it's a big waste of time. So throughout the year, anytime we would meet up every couple months, he would remind me, you got to start coming in earlier, because if people see that you aren't at your desk yet at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m., they might think negative thoughts about it. But the thing is, he never gave me a proper consequence for not doing it. He would just mention it. So this is a very similar situation where, because he didn't give me a proper consequence for not coming in at 9, I never saw a reason to come in earlier just because he said so. So that is exactly the same thing. Just because I mentioned to her, hey, I would like it if you were calm and walked out of the crate in a calm manner, but if I don't enforce it firmly, she's never going to do it because she sees no reason to. There's no consequence if she doesn't do it. So keep that in mind when it comes to dog training. That is one concept that applies to a lot of situations in dog training, and I want you guys to really, really think about it. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. If you liked it or thought any of the things that I mentioned were helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel also. I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.